And we will go over to our next keynote, Sustainable Intelligence, Harnessing AI to Protect Our Planet. And our speaker is Mr. Ranjit Metrani, President of Managed Services, CTRLS Data Center. May I request you, sir, to kindly come onto the dais and present your keynote. Here he is. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as I invite Mr. Ranjit Metrani onto the stage. Sir, the stage is yours.
Good afternoon. I guess this is too loud. Thank you for your time. Welcome to all of you. Welcome to a lot of friends I met here after a long time. You heard a lot of speakers speak about AI, so I'm not going to tell you the benefits of AI. My earlier speaker, it was brilliant what they shared. So I'm not going to speak about what AI can do. Everybody knows about it. I think I will speak something different. Probably what we need to look at is what you don't know or what they don't tell you when you think about AI. Because every single time everybody presents to you about the kind of stuff AI can do. But in the back end, what is it that they don't tell you is very important. Let's look at a few things. I was reading through some of the reports which are there. An average person in Calcutta drinks about 2.3 liters of water. That's the average. How many of you use Instagram here by show of hands? Not many. Okay. So every single time you use Instagram, average Instagram user is about 140 minutes. That's what it is mentioned. So every single time you use Instagram in a day, which is 140 minutes, Instagram consumes 17 liters of water for running it, right? Let's take ChatGPT. Everybody speaks about Gen AI. You cannot talk about ChatGPT without that. How many of you use ChatGPT? Okay, quite a few. It was estimated earlier that when GPT was launched, that for every query, it used to use about half a liter of water. So every single time you put a query, it takes about half a liter of water. With GPT-4, it is estimated that it takes about 3 bottles of water. Now that's a lot of water consumption. Meta consumed about 5.3 billion liters of water last year. That was the consumption of Meta, right? When the ChatGPT training was done, ChatGPT consumed 700,000 liters of water. Now that's the water which is required to cool a nuclear reactor. Think about it. Now, this is very important when you look at AI platforms. This is just from a water perspective, right? What happens when you look at power? India's power peak load capacity in last year, or this year, sometime in July, was about 250 gigawatts per month. That was the peak load capacity. India's data center capacity by 2027 is expected to touch about 2 gigawatts, right? But interestingly, if you look at most of the social media, and including ChatGPT, let me speak again about ChatGPT. ChatGPT consumed about 250 gigawatt of power. Meta consumed 15,000 gigawatt of power last year. Now, when you look at ChatGPT consuming that kind of power, why does it consume that kind of power? When ChatGPT training was done, they used about 280,000 processor cores and almost about 10,000 graphic cards. GPT-4 was estimated to use about 30,000 graphic cards to do GPT-4. It translated into about 800 petaflops of power in terms of computing power. That's equal to something like 10 supercomputers in the world. That's the kind of consumption, right? Power is a very important aspect when you look at running any of the platforms of AI. An average AI consumes about, I think about 9 to 10 megawatts of power per kilowatt, right? So power is a very important aspect. And that's the hidden cost, apart from a lot of other hidden costs which are there, when you look at implementing generative AI, right? Most of the large companies struggle around this. There's prohibitive cost when it comes to integrating the platforms for running these AI. Even the top companies struggle around areas like this, right? It's interesting when you look at travel in India. It's very complex also. You have to decide how to travel. I come from Bangalore, very difficult place. Most of the people tell me that Bangalore is pretty difficult from a traffic perspective. So you always decide saying whether you choose a car, you choose a bus, you want to take a metro. It's very complex, and Bangalore was never made out to what it is. So the integration of traffic into the Bangalore city became very complex. And that's one of the reasons why Bangalore struggles as far as integration and traffic is concerned. Now, that's exactly the problem you face when you look at AI. 39% of the companies are experiencing compatibility issues, right, when it comes to generative AI. And that's largely also got to do with the kind of current systems you run. If you look at most of the organizations historically, right, they've grown over a period of time, so there are legacy systems. And of course, you start implementing new technologies. And then there's the aspect of data which is always siloed. So it's very complex when you look at integrating siloed data which is existent with legacy systems and new technology. And that's the complexity that exists when you start looking at AI platforms, right? I come from an era when internet was not there. 1995 is when internet came into India. So I didn't need to worry about passwords. So I didn't have a problem. But this is the biggest issue when it comes to the industry itself today, right? There were almost about 6 billion malware attacks which was there last year. So the biggest problem that when it comes to AI platforms is the data challenges. Almost 3 in 10 leaders reported this. And we all know, and there are enough and more incidents which are reported in the public domain about the challenges that exist as far as data privacy and security incidents are concerned. So this is a very, very important aspect when you look at any aspects of AI platforms which are there. We all use filters. We all use platforms. But the biggest problem today as far as AI is concerned, and which we've seen it across, is the aspect of deepfakes, right? It was reported that there was almost a 700% increase in the incidents around deepfakes in the last 1 year, especially in the fintech industry. Now, that's a very, very large number, and this is going to increase substantially. The biggest problem around AI and the Gen AI platforms is the ethical bias, and I'm not going to get into what happened with Gemini, right? Google Gemini had these issues, and we've had multiple platforms which is in the public domain about the AI hallucinations which existed. And this is one of the biggest areas that concerns which comes up every single time we look at AI or Gen AI platforms as far as the industry is concerned, right? When you go into India and when you go into most of the remote places in India, this is a very common scene which you see, right? The reason why you see the scene is because most of the time transport is a challenge. So you have to fit in people with the available mode of transport which is existent. So you have to scale. And the biggest challenge when it comes to this particular platform in Gen AI is the scalability issue itself. I spoke to you about the kind of consumption ChatGPT needs when it's running these infrastructures. Imagine running 280,000 cores, processor cores, 30, 40,000 GPUs, not to mention how it is for you folks. But the scalability is the biggest platform, and how do you scale this more efficiently when you're running these Gen AI platforms? And this is very important when you look at implementing any Gen AI within your organization, right? The other aspect always comes. You walk up to a CFO and say, I want so many $1 million for me to actually have a Gen AI platform. The biggest question always is the return on investment when it comes to implementing this. Almost more than 38% of the companies had a problem in strong ROI. And we've seen, if you actually Google it out, you'll find a huge number of companies which actually failed as far as Gen AI is concerned. And largely because of the fact that they had the problem as far as ROI is concerned, right? So this is a very, very important aspect when you look at implementing AI or Gen AI platforms within your organization. This is one of the most important aspects, if you ask me, right? I think more and more you're seeing this aspect of regulatory hurdles which exist as far as most of the markets are concerned, right? India is also no different, with most stringent privacy laws that has come into place as far as even India is concerned. This is one of the most critical hurdles that you will face when you look at Gen AI platforms. So you will have to keep this in mind that when you look at implementing any AI platforms, the risk and the issues related to governance is very, very important, right? So what is it at a very broad perspective if you look at it? What do we believe is a strategic guide? What is it that any organization needs to do when you look at implementing AI platforms, right? And it's very simple, actually, if you ask me in some way. You got to develop a very clear strategy because many of the failures which we've seen, and McDonald's, for example, if you Google out, is one of a classic example of a failure of AI, right? It's very important to have a very clear strategy in terms of your plan in the future as far as AI is concerned. Invest in data management. I did speak about the aspect of siloed data. And one of the biggest challenges in the tech industry is the siloed data that exists. It's very important that you invest in data management. Invest in tech and infra, right? I again spoke to you about legacy systems that exist today. It's very important that you have to invest for you to progress away from the legacy systems, for you to look at Gen AI platforms. And lastly, of course, you have to pilot AI projects. There's no point in trying to go big bang and say we are going to do all of this. It's very important you start small and then look at how it works and then start scaling. I did speak to you about deepfakes, issues around privacy. It's very important that you establish ethical guidelines within the organization. You collaborate with external parties who have the capability to help you out on these areas. You monitor and adapt based on what comes out from those reports which come in. And it's also very important that you communicate and educate within the organization. And the reason is this, that some of the incidents which I spoke to you about earlier, 62% of those incidents happened from inside the organization, and it was not external. So it's very important that you communicate and educate when it comes to most of the Gen AI platforms, right? So what is it we do from a controllers perspective? Controllers is a group of companies. It's not just a single company. Started off as a data center company way back in 2008, having data centers across India, which I will show you in a few minutes. But the focus is this for us, that when we look at delivering platforms and technologies to customers, it's imperative for us to look at it from an end-to-end holistic solution. And that's the reason you will see all of these companies which deliver those platforms across to our customers. Right from 8-bit, for example, which is the latest entrant in our group of companies, which delivers GPU as a service, AI as a service, to Deep Forest, for example, which does a lot of ML modeling. And all of these companies which we've actually started, we keep in mind all those issues which I just spoke to you about. That is about sustainability, right? It's about a sustainable AI platform. That's the most important part when we build data centers and we start focusing on delivering these platforms across to our customers. This is the main stack. I'm not going to get too much into this, but this is the stack which we deliver when it comes to delivering AI services across to our customers, which is the core platform starts with the kind of infrastructure you deliver to our customers. I did speak to you about the kind of efficiency that is required for you to run Gen AI platforms. So it starts with the kind of infrastructure that gets delivered. It starts with the foundational models which we build across to our customers. And then, of course, the application ecosystem and the support around it. All of those layers are built across, and this is the stack which we deliver all to our customers, and we'll be very happy to share a lot more. We have a stall outside. My colleagues are there. We'll be very happy to share with you all of these details which are there. What's very important when you look at AI is the ability of a data center to run the AI. And I did speak to you about earlier about the kind of consumption of power which is required, water which is required. Most of the time when you start looking at these projects, when you have a captive data center, you don't look at the kind of power or the water which is required for you to run it. So it's very important that you look at this. All of our data centers which are there, these are flagship data centers which we have across Mumbai, Patna. Patna is an edge location which we have. Noida, Bangalore, Chennai, and Hyderabad, right? Patna and Lucknow are what we call as edge data centers. But all of these are AI-ready data centers. And what does it mean by saying AI-ready data centers? It's very simple. You will look at all our data centers which is there, which will have almost 40% less energy efficiencies, right? It's got 10% more performance, and almost up to 100% heat removal efficiency. And these are very important when you look at building Gen AI platforms. It has also got AI-ready power provisions. The backend infra, for example, can support almost 250 kilowatt per rack, and average rack capacity is anywhere between 6 to 10, but we have the backend infrastructure to actually support that. We also use liquid immersion cooling, which basically reduces the carbon footprint, because that's the most important part when you look at energy-efficient data centers. In fact, our data center currently in Mumbai, for example, one of the data centers is fully efficient, green efficient, 40 megawatt of power comes through solar. Our intent is obviously to extend that across to all our data centers, and by 2030 to have zero carbon footprint. I mean, that's a focus area for us. These are the upcoming ones which are there. Chennai, Hyderabad, Mumbai, and Kolkata. Kolkata is going to be a 16 megawatt data center which is going to be operational. Most important, again, I keep specifying that these are AI-ready data centers. It's not just a data center which is like what any other data center would be. All of these are rated for data centers, but these are AI-ready data centers. So when you look at running your platforms, it's very important to have a look at, do you have a partner who can actually deliver AI-ready platforms to you in the future, keeping in mind the kind of capacities in terms of scaling, in terms of power, all of those aspects, whether you have a partner to actually deliver that, right? All of these we keep in mind is because sustainability is the core for our business. We have the industry's lowest PUE, which is about 1.3. Industry average is about 1.8. We run at about 1.3 as far as industry average is concerned. We'll be 100% renewable energy by 2030. I did speak to you about net carbon zero by 2030 again. We have almost 80 plus innovations around the energy efficiency part itself. Our focus always when we look at building IPs, for example, is around data center energy efficiency. And that's the reason you will see a lot of awards which has been won by controllers in terms of sustainability awards, which is the Golden Peacock Award, which is very, very important. The last part also is we have a DC, which is a fully solar facade in Mumbai. Not to mention that 10 million tons of water was recycled, and by 2030, again, 100% usage of recycled water will be done by our DCs. All of these are core to build a sustainable infrastructure, because most of the time when people look at running infrastructures, these are never taken into consideration. You generally look at, I bought these servers, I bought this storage, I have these softwares, and I just run these platforms. But what is important and the core to our business is to deliver sustainable infrastructures to our customers. And that is the reason you will see all of these, and we spend a lot of money around this in terms of ensuring that all our data centers are sustainable, and we are able to deliver sustainable AI across to our customers. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. It's a pleasure talking to you folks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ranjit Metrani. Thank you very much, sir. May I request you to kindly step forward? And I request Mr. K.K. Mahapatra to kindly come forward and present a memento to Mr. Ranjit Metrani. He is the President, Managed Services Control S Data Center. Thank you, sir, for being with us today and sharing your stories with us. Thank you. We request you to take your seat in the hall.